We should be live. All right, perfect. So we already got a few questions lined up, and then we can get into this mock. So, Javon, first question, first person in the stream. Yo, what's up, boys? What's up, Javon? See, you got that new profile pic. That's what's up. We got Jared in here. Let's go, Jared. Leo as well. Let's go. Jared, Knicks at Hawks. Hawks -5. Smash the Knicks all day, guys. Yeah, I think they actually end up this game at a 2-2 series. So hopefully they can come through with that, especially for Snacks' sake.
I literally don't watch any basketball with the Raptors like being bad this year. So
Ravers, yes sir, Ravers. Let's get it. We got this mock draft on dock right now. But yeah, we got the Knicks game at 1, and then my Lakers are at 3:30. So that should be fun. So I'll just click the share screen, and then we can get into this mock. Let me just tell the boys. At all, yeah.
Hey, Coach Bruce, shout out to him. Give us our
let's go, Coach.
fishbowl shout out. Yeah, I mean, okay, so Danny was in it last year. I didn't get in, so I'm hoping I can get in this year. But
I don't understand that. I got in last year with nothing.
Well, he's still sending invites out today.
Okay. Yeah, I was confused, but whatever.
Yeah. So do we know they know the scoring format, right?
Yeah, I put it in the chat. It's but if you guys are watching the stream, full PPR, 1 quarterback redraft mock draft. So
yeah, we'll probably run like a dynasty startup or like a rookie draft or whatever anybody wants to do after this. But we're doing a redraft one here. I'm picking from the 7th slot, which is interesting.
Yeah, no, definitely. That is a weird spot in my opinion. I usually, when I'm in that middle of the draft, I always end up with Ezekiel Elliott because after that top 5 tier, it's about projecting volume. And when I'm looking at Zeke, I'm looking at that offense. I'm looking at the reception upside. He's the one I feel the most sure about.
Yeah, well, plus you also have when you're checking boxes on a first round pick, right? Like Zeke Elliott, it's pretty hard not to check a lot of boxes for him, right? Because you got receiving upside, you got touchdown upside. His offense is, going to be good as long as everybody can stay healthy. Himself as a talent should be better this year. That's really the only question I have with him, which is crazy to say because I know he's a talented player, but his talent being his biggest question mark speaks a lot about his situation.
For sure. So we actually do see Nick Chubb get sniped.
And I'm going to take Ezekiel Elliott right now. So
perfect. Yeah, this is also a typical mock you'll see, or even draft you'll see. Running backs are hammered early because people know about the scarcity of them. We're going to be talking about overall redraft philosophies, overall draft philosophies in general. And we're going to be talking about in depth about how opportunity cost at the top, the middle, and the back end of your draft is the reason why running backs go early. Because let's be honest here, those top dogs comparatively to the guys you're getting in the mid rounds, like the Edmonds, even the Mike Davises, there's so many question marks comparatively to what you can get from the receiver position in those rounds.
Yeah, it's to me, it's a little bit crazy how people didn't figure out this strategy sooner.
Yeah.
I never heard people talking about this 2 or 3 years ago, but when you think about it, right, there's only 15 to 25 feature backs in the NFL. How have we not been doing this the whole time, right? Because we know that running backs are not overly valued as far as NFL teams go, and it's getting, more and more along that trend. And this is probably going to be an even bigger trend going forward. There's going to be probably less and less feature backs, 5 years from now.
Yep. Also, we see the biggest surprise of the draft so far, Patrick Mahomes rounding out the first round. And I typically wouldn't go quarterback that early, but if Mahomes is there in the mid third, that's about when I'm considering him. But yeah, I can't get on board with D112 personally.
Yeah. So we could see a lot of running backs went off the board, right? We got 9 straight running backs to start the draft. Then we got 3 more towards the back half here. No flat in the mock. Straight up strategy.
Gotta get in the next one. Okay, so let's get back. Sup, fellas? This draft, this rookie class is gonna be pretty fun too. The thing I have my eye on is all those sophomore backs because these past couple years in terms of 2020, 2021 rookies is going to be a lot of fun to look at 2, 3, 4 years down the road. So Spicy Hot, what up? What up, Spicy? You should experiment with modified 0 RB. I fully agree. I mean, if you pick at the Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook type slot and all the good, stable running backs are gone by then, I'm fine with stocking up our receivers at that range. And then maybe in round 6 or 7, you're looking at guys like Damien Harris. You're looking at guys in that kind of range. And since you have that already stud secured RB, you don't necessarily have to worry as much at that RB2 spot. It fully depends on your roster construction, and we're going to actually be talking about favorite best ball strategies this upcoming week actually with Hayden. So that should be a ton of fun. If you guys don't know Hayden, he's Hayden Winks on Twitter. Actually works for Underdog Fantasy. So that'll be a lot of fun talking in depth with them.
Yeah, I actually took Davante Adams because this is a redraft mock. And to me, if Aaron Rodgers is in Green Bay, Davante Adams is my wide receiver one. It's not even really particularly close. He's a bona fide top, 8 or 10 pick for me. And him and Tyreek would be the only two receivers I'd take in the first round. So if he's on the board at the 2-6 in this situation for me, I'm going to pick him regardless of the running backs on the board. And to me, there was a tier break after Austin Eckler and Antonio Gibson anyway. So that's why I went with Davante Adams over J.K. Dobbins. As much as I love J.K. Dobbins, he does have some question marks with how much work is he going to get. And Najee Harris has, but like the opposite question mark. I know how much work he's going to get, but how efficient is he?
I will quickly say he mentioned modified 0 RB. Let me rock it here. I don't feel comfortable about any of these backs making them a second round pick. So I'm just going to snag AJ Brown here. We'll see what happens. This is the perfect type of situation to go modified 0 RB. You look at the running backs available here, and it's questionable. And I was actually hoping one of those tight ends made it back to me. But
back in tight ends.
Yeah, I was hoping one of them made it back to me. But regardless, I'm looking at DeAndre Hopkins, DK Metcalf, Justin Jefferson. And this pick will actually come down between Hopkins, Jefferson, and Keenan Allen. And since this is a redraft, I just trust what DeAndre Hopkins is going to be able to do for me, especially in a full PPR. He's locked and loaded, 165, 170 targets. You pair that with the upside I have with AJ Brown and Dalvin Cook. I'm stoked about the start to this team.
Yeah, and Javon says, how do you think Kenyon Drake will do for the Raiders? I talked about Kenyon Drake and Josh Jacobs in depth on my post-NFL draft sneaky risers and fallers when I said that Josh Jacobs was a sneaky riser of the offseason and not a faller despite the Kenyon Drake signing. So I kind of went in depth with how I see their roles going out in that video. But basically, to sum it up, I think between they had like 550 running back opportunities in that backfield last year. I think what Kenyon Drake does is that he immediately makes Jalen Richard like a non-factor. He'll probably only get like 50 to like 80 touches max like on the entire season. And Kenyon Drake will probably be the type of guy that's like 120, 160 type touchback like he was all those years in Miami and even in a couple other stops that he's been. So I think Kenyon Drake is going to be a guy that you never know when to start. So I just personally wouldn't draft him unless it's a best ball format because he's probably just going to be really boom or bust from a redraft perspective if you have to start the guy.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, Drake, I don't mind if you're getting him at extreme value in a best ball. Typically in that range of the draft, I don't necessarily draft running backs in best ball. I typically have 2 at minimum locked and loaded guys and potentially 3 in my best ball teams. And then I just stock up on receivers from there on because let's be honest here, you're looking for guys on any given week that can produce you a lineup type of implementation. Basically, you want a guy that can actually make your lineup. And let's be honest here, Kenyon Drake's probably not going to get in over an Austin Eckler or a Nick Chubb if you're constructing a best ball team. So I typically look at in that range, round 10, round 11. I mentioned a guy like Corey Davis. That's a typical target that I have in that type of area. So, anyways, I'm already excited. I can't wait to go over that strategy series. And it's going to be a lot of fun because we haven't really had a lot of best ball type content in terms of strategy on the channel yet.
Yeah, Spicy Hot, this is a redraft mock draft. So we can do a rookie mock. We can do a dynasty startup mock after this one, but this one is a redraft 1 quarterback mock that we're doing. Jorge or George, I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm terrible with pronunciation, but he says, are you in Texas? Since you got that trash behind you.
We're in Canada.
Yeah, we're actually in Canada. So we don't really have any like direct affiliate NFL team. Like most people around here are fans of the big market teams like the Cowboys and the Steelers and the Patriots and sometimes like the Bills because they are technically the closest team to us, along with the Lions. But yeah, he also says, I believe the tight end position bounces back this year. I'm not sure if he's the one who took the 2 tight ends. I don't think it's him, but no. I think the tight end position, the middle tier is the tier that's going to bounce back. I think the top end guys are probably going to be about the same as they were last year, but the TJ Hawkinsons, the Mark Andrews, the Noah Fant, I feel like that tier is going to get stronger this year than it was last year because there was a much bigger drop off from Darren Waller or whoever the tight end 3 was last year to TJ Hawkinson and Mark Andrews at 4 and 5. And I think those guys are actually going to close the gap a little bit more this year.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And as a whole, I mean, we've seen it this offseason. When is the last time we've really talked about having like 6, 7 tight ends we've actually been somewhat excited about? This offseason, even up to like the Noah Fant, the Dallas Goedert area, we're talking about guys that we can see making significant impacts on your teams, even before getting to that late round tight end area. So overall, I do think, agreed, in terms of redraft, in terms of best ball, in terms of really any type of format, this is a very good year to target the tight end position.
Yeah, and the mid round especially is an area of the draft I usually stay away from with tight ends, but they're going at a point where people understand that there's a drop off, right? Like they understand that there's no value when it comes to picking the tight end 4 instead of picking Darren Waller, and there's a bigger drop off than there probably needs to be. And I'm on the board right now, and both of my next 2 targets just got sniped like ahead of me. So
I was hoping Lamb fell, but I figured he would.
I am looking around here at the board, and I'm really not liking anything that I see. And I know we just made a video talking about how this guy is going to be a bust, but to me, Chris Carson is a tier break at running back. He is the last guy that I know is going to get his full workload, whether that's only for 10 games or 12 games or whatever the case is. Chris Carson is my RB3. That's where I'm comfortable with him, right? When we make a bust video and we say a player is going to be a bust, it's not that we think he's a bad player. He's going to be terrible for fantasy. The reason we said Chris Carson was a bust is because he was a 3rd round pick in terms of ADP. And I'm in the mid 4th round here. And based on who's off the board at the running back position, this is where I think Carson should be going.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And in general, just because we have him as a bust video, you guys got to take it away the fact that we're talking about bust at ADP. We're not just saying we're going to avoid this guy. For example, if Carson falls in the mid 4th round of your redraft, that's a typical range where he's worth that pick. If he was a mid to late 3rd rounder, that's when you're saying, would you rather him or Montgomery? Would you rather him or any of those receivers? A-Rob, MT, McLaurin, Cooper, Godwin? No, I wouldn't. But at this current range, when you're comparing Carson to like Woods, Hunt, even the quarterbacks after Mahomes, I'm fine with taking Carson there.
Right. Yeah. If Evans would have been on the board, honestly, even if Godwin, Kupp, Cooper, McLaurin, like any of those guys would have been on the board, and I would have taken them over Carson. But there was a tier break at running back. There was a tier break at receiver. And I just, I thought that was the best pick on the board. And Ben says thoughts on Irv Smith. We've went into Irv Smith like a lot. I would say if you want a full explanation on it, go watch the Dynasty tight end rankings. I don't know. You think he was like our tight end 9 or tight end 10 or something like that. We went really in depth with why we think he's going to establish himself as a big time target in that offense. And honestly, he could legitimately like not overtake Adam Thielen for target wise, but as a role and as a piece in that offense, as a weapon in that offense, I could definitely see him making a bigger impact with his targets than Adam Thielen.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And we saw the pace. We saw what Irv Smith was able to do from a target share perspective over the last, what was it, 7-8 games of the season.
Right. And especially when you look into like the advanced stuff, like how many routes he was running and how many, what his snap share was and stuff like that, you could really see him start to stronghold that role. And this is our this is our Jonnu Smith this year. Like to me, it's very obvious why he's a breakout candidate. He had a good profile. He's about the same type of athlete, same build as Jonnu Smith, and it's the same type of situation. He's got an established number 1 receiver, but after that, Adam Thielen's probably like comparable to Corey Davis in terms of his target volume and what he can bring to the table. But even Jonnu Smith last year was a valuable tight end. And if he was a little bit more consistent, maybe the Titans passed the ball a little bit more, he would have been better. And I think the Vikings are a bit more pass heavy than the Titans are. So to me, Irv Smith has a good chance to finish as a top 10 guy.
Ooh, I was hoping Damien Harris would fall back to my next pick. So I was hoping maybe I could get Davis.
He's going to go higher in our mock drafts than he will in most
other
things because we're high on Damien Harris.
I went with Davis simply because it's an easily projectable volume situation. I talked about it with the Arthur Smith coaching change that Ryan Tannehill averaged 30.1 pass attempts per game this past year. Matt Ryan averaged 39.1. So there's already a 9 pass attempt per game buffer between the Tennessee and the Atlanta Falcons offense last year. And we're talking about a guy, Mike Davis, aside from Javion Hawkins, an 180-pound undrafted free agent, not Puka Williams, the other pass catcher that they brought. There is no real competition behind
them. They have to.
Quadre Olsen. Yeah, there's no real competition behind Mike Davis. So although he's an unsexy pick, I think he's going to have a pretty solid RB2 type year, given the volume that Arthur Smith should be able to provide him in that offense. So we're actually seeing all the quarterbacks go off the board. I was also contemplating Kyler Murray if Davis had gone, simply because I thought Harris would be able to make it back to me. And that's simply because I have that stack with Hopkins. Imagine I was able to pair Kyler Murray with that.
I wanted Lamar so bad. Lamar Jackson, to me, there's absolutely no reason he should go in the 5th round. If you can get Lamar Jackson in the 5th round of a redraft,
it's stealing.
It's absolutely stealing. This guy should be going where he was going last year, which is right after Mahomes, QB2, in the back of the 3rd round or whatever. If he's going to go off the board in the mid 5th round, I will take him there. Even though I don't like taking quarterbacks early, I will take him there. He's one of those guys. To me, there's a guy or two every year that even though I don't like taking tight ends and quarterbacks early, I will pick them if they slide. And last year, that guy was Darren Waller, and it was Deshaun Watson at quarterback. So if those guys were sliding last year, I was going to pick them. And this year, I have a feeling it's going to be Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews. Those two guys are two guys that I find myself drafting all the time.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. So we'll get into a couple more. Sorry, we clicked at the same time. His route running is awesome, and dude is a beast. Yeah.
Kyle Pitts is phenomenal. Kyle Pitts is. See, here's the thing with Kyle Pitts, though, is that I don't know what to do with him in redraft, right? Because I think he's going where he should be, but do I want to take that risk in the 5th, 6th round, whatever point in the draft that I have to take it, 7th round maybe, when I could take other positions and hope to grab a later round tight end guy who I think, honestly, in Kyle Pitts' rookie year, has about as much upside as Kyle Pitts. Now, if Julio Jones gets traded, Kyle Pitts' ADP is going to be absurd. It's going to be ahead of Mark Andrews, if I had to guess.
Easily, dude. I've seen him already going in the 3rd round of some best ball drafts.
Getting
3rd round.
Again at the 5'11" is absolutely stealing, by the way.
Yeah, that's a good value. And I know I talked about Jamar Chase, but if you can get him at the end of the 5th round, that's appropriate value for him. But the fact is, in underdog, he's currently going in this range, and I would rather Julio, I'd rather DJ, I'd rather Robert Woods. So that's the area where I'm looking at, where I was basically saying, what the heck is going on here in that video? So Gibson, DJ Moore, early values. Yeah, I agree with that.
Forrest, I'm legitimately right now, right before we started going live, I'm writing an article called Why Antonio Gibson is the Next Christian McCaffrey. So I'm absolutely on board with you. I think he's a guy that it's going to be very, very hard for me to pass on in redraft leagues and dynasty leagues, whatever the case is. I think the guy is going to vault himself into elite fantasy running back status after this year.
Agreed. Are you talking about Rob Tonyan? Because if so, I'm not really high on him at all.
Yeah, I mean, are you talking? You could be talking about Gronk too. I'm not sure. I think you would have just said Gronk if that's who he was talking about. Yeah, it could be Rob, could be even Robert Woods. I'm not sure. And I wanted Ayuk. Thank you, Paul, for.
I know who you're gonna go, and it makes me sick.
I'm looking around at the board right now. How is Jalen Hurts going ahead of Tom Brady in drafts? That is freaking absurd.
All right. Thoughts on Mark Andrews? I mean, he's going to be that typical lower volume, more high volatile type player because of his reliance on the touchdowns. But when you can peg a guy in for 10 plus touchdowns a year, it doesn't matter. He's going to get his points. And
I think there's a chance that, and I've seen a lot of smart fantasy analysts say the same thing. I think there's a chance that this offense opens right up as the passing game. Let's not forget, people will just assume that Lamar Jackson's only value as a rushing quarterback. Guy led the NFL in passing touchdowns in his MVP season also. So I'm not under the impression that the Ravens are going to be the same old Ravens this year. I think they know they need to change some things up and become less predictable. Don't run the ball every single goddamn play. And I think Rashad Bateman, along with Mark Andrews and maybe Marquise Brown, now going into his more natural fit as a third target in an offense, second wide receiver, where he can just be a deep threat. I think that offense, from a passing perspective, has a lot more potential than people are giving it credit for. And Mark Andrews, if he sees any kind of volume uptick, could vault himself into the elite fantasy tight end tier.
Yeah, no, I definitely see that. Again, we're not comparing Irv to Thielen straight up. We're more so comparing Irv to the tight ends and Thielen to the wide receivers. Obviously,
Thielen also relied heavily on touchdowns last year, very heavily. He had 106 targets. He did not get a lot of volume. Jerry Jeudy had more volume than Adam Thielen last year, which is pretty crazy. But if that's going to be the case for Adam Thielen going forward, he needs to rely on touchdowns. It's a dicey situation when you're talking about a wide receiver, because with tight ends, it's you got to rely on touchdowns, but the position's not very good in general. With a wide receiver, the position's so deep. There's so many guys, especially where Thielen's going in that range that he's going, that are more consistent, that are getting more target volume, more yardage, and more receptions, that Thielen is just, to me, he's a guy that I'm probably going to be staying away from this year, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Plus, he's an older player too, and his style of play is probably not one that's going to decline quickly. But I still am a little bit nervous when you're talking about a guy that kind of fell out of favor as the number one target in that offense last year.
Yeah. Had to take him early. Yeah, definitely. Damien Harris was. To be fair, he could actually Corey probably would have taken him regardless. But yeah, Guyton versus Tyron.
Yeah.
I prefer Guyton too. He was a more efficient player last year, and in general, I typically prefer the younger, more exciting option, which I do think Guyton presents. So, yeah, I said in the chat, yeah, like y'all said. Oh yeah, no, I agree. Again, entering that elite of the elite in terms of why did it click to auto? Whatever. I'll take Tyler Lockett as my 5th receiver. I don't care.
Yeah, Tyler Lockett is another guy that is going to rely on touchdowns and big plays and stuff. He's super lazy analysis incoming, but he's a fantastic best ball pick. But Tyler Lockett was actually bad last year. He was a wide receiver 1, but if you remove those 2 games, man, he was actually bad for fantasy. Like, there was people that were like sitting him by the end of the year. Like, I know he finished wide receiver 11 or whatever, but he was not a very valuable fantasy asset outside of his 2 monster games that he had.
I was too busy looking at chat, but regardless, again, I understand that. But even in this scenario, if I plug him into the flex, I'm not really relying on him there, especially with AJ Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, Julio, and Robbie Anderson. So at this point, I'm fine with taking that value on Lockett, because when he's on his game, he's still going to be a top 12 receiver in fantasy. So, yeah, no, I agree with that. Gronk.
Okay, so Gronkowski is probably going to be a guy that is a good late round target, but once the more casual people get back into fantasy, I'd imagine his ADP is going to rise a little bit because, he's one of the biggest names in fantasy. I think Gronkowski is going to be a very, again, touchdown or bust type of guy, because with OJ Howard coming back, he actually was the starting tight end for the team, like in terms of snap share and routes run, before Gronkowski had the full season to be the starting tight end, and OJ Howard went out with his Achilles injury. So I think that Gronk is probably going to disappoint a little bit of people, like if they start taking him very high in drafts.
Yeah, no, definitely. And just the name alone, people are going to look at it. Oh, Gronk, he's getting thrown the ball from Brady. Like, the casuals are going to
last year was also the first time he played 16 games since 2011.
Yeah.
And he had a full offseason or a full year to recover his body and stuff. So I have a feeling he's not going to be a guy that you can rely on next year. He might be okay for you to, let's say you take an Irv Smith, if you want to pair him with Gronk for early in the season when OJ Howard's getting his legs back under him. You could probably play Gronk in your tight end slot while you see what the usage is for a guy like Irv Smith. I didn't even see Javonte Williams on the board.
If I didn't get auto picked Lockett, I remember I had him, like, I didn't have him in my queue, but I had him in my head. So
yeah, I literally didn't even see Javonte Williams on the board. There's no way I would have passed him if I knew he was there.
Facts. Yeah, Joel Apollo, let's freaking go. Buddy's a freaking legend. Habs legend right there.
Get that fucking
go
Habs talk out of my chat.
Let's get it. Gibson, Hilaire, full PPR. I'm taking Gibson in any format,
in my opinion. I like Edward Hilaire, but
it's Gibson. Yeah,
it's Gibson. Yeah, like Edward Hilaire to me does not have nearly the ceiling that people think he does. The people think he can legitimately finish as the RB1, but the Chiefs never run the ball in the red zone. Like, they just don't do it. And can you blame them? Like, if we were the coach of the Chiefs, would we put the ball in Patrick Mahomes' hand in the red zone, or would we give it to Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Like, no, I'm giving it to Mahomes.
Yeah, no, definitely. Zeke over JT. Yeah, I personally slightly prefer Zeke just because I think he's a safer player in terms of projected volume, in terms of protected pass usage. And in general, I do think that offense is going to be better. So although JT, you can make the argument that he's probably the more talented player at this current point in their careers, I'm still going to prefer Zeke because in general, when you're looking at a guy that can finish as the RB1 overall in fantasy, he basically checks every single box. He's got the offense.
I think JT could do it, but he would need to...
He would need
a lot of very big plays to do it and a lot of touchdowns, because the receiving volume in that offense with Phillip Rivers no longer there is bound to go down a little bit. And Nyheim Hines is always going to cut into his receiving work regardless. So I don't think there's a chance that Jonathan Taylor ever gets more than like 40 receptions in a season, which is still fine, but Zeke has a far bigger ceiling in that area.
Definitely. Sorry, I just saw Sexy Pat's question. I was looking in the chat if we skipped his question, but I don't even see his question. Oh, Tom Brady's frick. I was hoping he fell.
Yeah, I mean, like once I get to this point in the draft where I'm looking at these running backs like freaking Leonard Fournette and Zach Moss and shit, and the wide receivers start to thin out big time here by the like 8th, 9th round, I'm okay taking a quarterback there. If it's Tom Brady, if it's Matthew Stafford, if a guy like Aaron Rodgers falls to there or something like that, I'm okay taking a quarterback at that point, because I think once you get past some of these rookies that are really intriguing, Devontae Smith, and after you get past Will Fuller and Deebo Samuel, Jerry Jeudy and stuff like that, I think there's a big time drop off at receiver.
Yep, I agree. We're seeing the board kind of thin out right now, but here. Guys, I love Javonte Williams more than the next guy, but Melvin Gordon is still going to be involved in this offense, especially early. In this type of situation where I don't necessarily have a locked and loaded RB core passed out.
Here's the modified zero RB tree.
It is.
We're going to be singing the praises of Melvin Gordon this year.
And Melvin Gordon and maybe Leonard Fournette are probably the top 2 backs left on the board. So I'm going to take Melvin Gordon here because, again, we're projecting volume. Melvin Gordon should be able to get sufficient volume, and especially in the 8th round of my draft with that receiving core. I'm all in on that. Let's go. Thielen is too risky. I still like him at value. I wouldn't push him into that 3rd round here, but if you can get him at the end of the 4th, I think that's probably appropriate value for him.
Yeah, I mean, like he's a guy that's going to probably figure into like my wide receiver 20 to 25 range in terms of my rankings. I just have a feeling he's going to go higher than people think. Like, especially in casual leagues, he's been a consistent fantasy receiver for like 2 to 3 years now, at least like 4 years, if that. So I think he's a guy that people are going to feel comfortable taking in the 3rd, 4th round of their drafts. And at that point, I'm just probably not going to be willing to do that.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. I'm not high on Damien Harris, but Ramondre Stevenson is not going to be the guy.
Ramondre Stevenson is not a better running back than Damien Harris. I watched 5 games of Ramondre Stevenson. He is very much a limited player. Damien Harris has superior rushing ability to him, and you can see that evidenced by the fact that Damien Harris ranked highly in a number of rushing metrics this past year, and Ramondre Stevenson has never had more than like 140 touches in his college career, let alone in the NFL.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And man, I kind of panicked real quick because I was fine with a couple of quarterbacks, but I was really considering Tyler Boyd, and that's actually perfect timing.
Yeah, that's I definitely considered him.
That's perfect. I can't believe you skipped mine. I'm pissed. I didn't. Oh, what's up, Jared? Get in the next one, buddy. We'll post a link after this. That's a great pick. Oh man, I definitely considered him there.
Yeah, you got to consider him.
Michael Gallup or Brandon Cooks in redraft. I'll take Brandon Cooks on face value because I trust the target share. But in Dynasty, I'm taking Gallup, not thinking twice about it.
Yeah. Cooks is going to be an interesting one. He's either going to be a huge value or a guy that you should have seen it coming because the offense is going to be so bad. But if Deshaun Watson's the quarterback for Houston, then I don't see any possibility how Brandon Cooks is not a top 20 wide receiver, to be honest.
Yep, I agree with that. Javonte, it's a smash value. He's going to be a league winner down the stretch this year. Week 8, week 9 on, like this is going to be a guy who is going to smash it in your lineups. It's going to be that steady, locked and loaded RB2, and you got him here in the 7th round. Like, take that any chance you get. My team's goated. Let me see it. Oh yeah, we'll look at all the teams afterwards too and kind of give our thoughts on them and then head into it.
We haven't talked about this yet, so I'm curious what you think. So Evan says ideal Julio landing spot. Honestly, I don't think the Patriots are a bad spot for him. I know everybody's like, I don't want him to go to the Patriots. Like, it's a terrible landing spot. I actually think that's one of the better landing spots out there for him because I've already talked about it with Nelson Aguilar. Like, there is no 2nd and 3rd level target on that team right now. Yeah. And if Julio Jones were to go there, then he has a monopoly on that situation. And we already have reports constantly coming out about how Mac Jones is kicking the shit out of Cam Newton in practice right now. And if Mac Jones wins a starting job, that's good news for Julio Jones. Because Mac Jones is a lot more like Matt Ryan than people give him credit for. And that's high praise, but I seriously think Mac Jones has that kind of potential in his career.
Yeah, and another spot that I'm looking at is with the recent personnel moves that we've seen. Man, I think the Titans would actually be a great spot for him. People want to just point to the fact, oh, well, what about A.J. Brown? I don't want him to lose value. Julio landing doesn't necessarily impact A.J. Brown because there's 192 vacated targets on the Titans this year. Do you really think that Julio's going to chip into AJ Brown's target share when Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith are not on the team? No,
I would legitimately be higher on AJ Brown in the Titans offense. Just because I think he helps the offense so much if he goes there that I'm not concerned about the target share because AJ Brown has always been an efficient player. Yeah, I have no concerns about him being efficient.
And if they get Julio, you can bet your ass that 30th in the league in pass attempts last year is going to go up. Because when you have Julio Jones and A.J. Brown on the outside, why wouldn't you be throwing the ball when you have Ryan Tannehill as your quarterback? So overall, I mean, I would love that spot for Julio. People want to just hate on it. People want to say, oh, what about A.J. Brown, wide receiver 1 season? I would prefer A.J. Brown having that steady wide receiver. Well, I don't necessarily think you can call Julio a wide receiver 2, but you get the point of reference here that having another guy on the outside to command attention is going to be huge for A.J. Brown because he's always just relied on his efficiency regardless. But yeah, let's look at the board. There's literally no running back.
I think Boyd is great there. Yeah. See, again, to me, Tyler Boyd is a guy that I'm just not going to draft. I know he's probably going to be a top 36 wide receiver or something, but between Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and the fact that I think that offense is probably going to start out a bit slow with the fact that Joe Burrow is coming off of an injury, and Joe Burrow isn't necessarily a guy that I love either at where he's going. Because this is the guy coming off an ACL tear, and we're taking him over Tom Brady. We're taking him over Matthew Stafford. I just don't think he's not going to run that much to make up for Tom Brady and Matthew Stafford absolutely destroying him in passing production.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And did Corey Davis get taken? I can't even see.
Yeah, he did. He went. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Yeah, and Irv Smith went at the 7-8. I was looking for him where I picked Tunyon there. I was like, oh, is Irv Smith still on the board? He's not. I don't think Robert Tunyon's a bad pick in the 10th round. I don't think he's going to, score whatever he scored, like 11 touchdowns on like 40 targets last year, or like 40 receptions last year. But I do think he's established himself a little bit in that offense. And if Rodgers is back, and again, I wouldn't have picked Adams or Tunyon without the assumption that Rodgers is playing there. I think Tunyon can still be a back end tight end 1 for me. And I'll probably pair another tight end for him later in the draft.
For sure. Oh, wow. We got to catch up a little bit. Yeah, he'll play 2 games. We'll see.
Yeah, like Damien Harris missed, he's only played 1 season. He wasn't active for his rookie season. So last year's really the only time we got to see him on the field. And he suffered an unfortunate injury, but he's a running back. Running backs suffer unfortunate injuries all the time. Gibson and Ramondre Stevenson could not be more different of players, to be honest, because Antonio Gibson, the reason people liked Gibson so much, the reason I liked him, is because that guy was a freak athlete, 6 foot, 228, ran a 4.39. Ramondre Stevenson's like a 4.6 runner with limited production, and he played running back in college, unlike Gibson, who played wide receiver. So I'm not high on Ramondre Stevenson. This class wasn't very good at running back outside of the top 3, and I think Ramondre Stevenson is Sony Michel's replacement, not Damien Harris's.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. Yeah, no, I don't think he's necessarily bad. He just, what he's going to be. He's going to be a 2 down in between the tackles.
Like his ceiling is Jordan Howard.
Yeah, maybe on a good year, which I don't even think that the Patriots would do again. A LeGarrette Blount type role, but LeGarrette Blount got there on 18 touchdowns in 2016. So overall, I mean, yeah, he's cool, but yeah, I don't trust it regardless. I drafted Gibson 12.
Oh, yeah, I got auto pick David Johnson. Oh no.
Oh yeah, your boy, bro. The volume.
I got auto pick David. They would pick the worst possible person for me. I mean, in the 11th round, David Johnson. I mean, that's not the worst pick in the world. I'm not gonna lie.
Ew. Yeah, you stole him. You probably watched that sleepers video in noon.
Yeah, I took Gibson in every single draft I was in because he was going at that late of a point.
Like he's gonna help his ADP.
Yeah, you got to get Tebow's ADP up.
So let's get through a couple comments and then look through some of these teams. Then we'll get another one in here for you guys. Thoughts on Taylor and Chubb and Dynasty? I mean, they're both locked and loaded top 8 overall running backs. So,
yeah, I'll take Taylor over Chubb just because, I mean, there's like a 3-4 year age difference between the 2 guys. Yeah. And I think they're virtually the same type of player, same type of volume, same type of, talent level, rushing production that they're going to put up. But I do trust this year that Nick Chubb probably has a higher floor and a similar ceiling, whereas Taylor's going to be a little bit more of a riskier pick. But I do think Taylor has legitimate top 3 running back potential, and Chubb would need outlandish touchdown production to get to that point, in my opinion.
Yep, in order for Taylor to hit that, he's going to basically have to be what Zeke was in his first couple years, where he was relying about 50 total targets, but he was getting you there on the rushing yards and the rushing touchdowns, and that's what Taylor.
And Taylor will break away a couple 60-yard runs too. And not that Chubb doesn't do that, because he does do that too, but I think Taylor's going to do it more consistently than Chubb would.
Yep, I got Gibson in the 10th. Yeah, you guys are all getting Gibson. Love to hear it. I think I end up with the Titans. That's again, I mentioned it. That would be one of my favorite spots.
I think the Colts are a great spot for him too.
Yeah. Rookie City with Big JD. Yeah, buddy loves his rookies, eh?
Yeah, he went really rookie heavy there. Chase, Pitts, Waddle, Smith, Fields, Lawrence.
Yeah. I really want the Seahawks to give the Falcons Penny in a second for him. I mean, like, what are the Falcons going to do with Penny, though?
I mean, he'd be their second back, I guess. I heard reports that the Patriots were going to give him like Sony Michel in a second.
Yeah, it's gross.
Like that. I don't know, dude. If I were the Falcons and I wanted to acquire a complement running back, I'd be looking for a pass catching running back, probably not like because Davis is a good like runner of the ball. He can catch the ball, but I think you get more of a electric running back in space, then that makes a better complement than a guy like Rashad Penny or Sony Michel would.
Facts. Barkley or McCaffrey? Give me McCaffrey in fantasy.
Yeah, I'll take McCaffrey, but they're my 101 in redraft and my 102 in redraft, so they're neck and neck.
Bush gives us the insider trade. Rojo or Fournette, who's going to have more touches?
Oh, I'll go in depth on this at some point. My advice, this wouldn't have been my advice last year. I was higher on Rojo last year than I will be this year, but Rojo is the guy I will take, but I have a feeling it's going to be a headache. Like, honestly, like Rojo, they're great best ball picks. Both of them are great best ball picks because you never have to decide when to start them. They're both going to get their rushing volume. It's going to be a hot hand type of approach. To me, when it's a hot hand type of approach, I'll take the more talented runner of the ball, which is Rojo, and it's not really all that close. But Rojo does have these lapses and mistakes that he makes that causes Arians to favor Fournette in some situations. But we saw down the back half of the season last year, Fournette get deactivated and Ronald Jones be the starting running back, and it wasn't a competition anymore. And then Rojo got COVID and was taken off of what was about to be 1,000-yard rushing season for him.
Yeah, I agree. So he says value for Fields at that spot, or was Lance more value there? Honestly, I actually would have preferred Burrow to both of them at that spot. If we're actually looking at it, in a redraft. Well.
Yeah, and I'm also going to write an article, going to be in our draft guide, probably going to write it for the scouts as well, talking about when I expect Mac Jones, Justin Fields, and Trey Lance to make their first starts based on, what's happened with previous quarterbacks that have gone in their drafts. Lance and Fields are both traded up for as that, lend itself to them starting sooner. And how do their current starters, being what I would consider not great quarterbacks, Andy Dalton and Cam Newton and Jimmy Garoppolo, how does that kind of factor into it? So I'm going to write an article talking about when I expect those guys to start. And I have a feeling that the answer is going to be sooner than people think.
Oh, absolutely. We go through this every single year. I mean, look at Herbert last year. Everybody's like, oh yeah, does he maybe come in week 6, week 7? No. He was in week 2. I mean, special thanks for him to that. I mean, I don't want to say thanks, but like
that trainer had a big bet on offensive rookie of the year, Justin Herbert.
Yeah. So. Oh yeah, he's got to take God. You got to take God. Smash that like button. Yeah, guys, if you're watching the stream, we got 39 concurrent viewers in here right now. Make sure you're liking it. It helps us with that YouTube algorithm, as always. You know how it is. Since I have Saquon, Chubb, and Akers, I felt like Harris wouldn't have ever gotten in my lineup over them, so I took Pitts 101. You're absolutely not crazy.
Would you have been able to start Harris in your flex spot? Like, because if you only had one flex spot, like 2 running backs, 1 flex, then I understand the move. But if you were able to start all 4 of them at any point, like you could start 2 running backs and then 2 flexes, I would have still taken Harris.
I mean, I would have taken Harris, but to be fair, if it's a tight end premium league, then I would be like, okay, they're probably around the same tier for me, so I would be fine with going Pitts. But
you probably would have fielded offers for that pick if you didn't already do that, because you didn't need Harris. Like if somebody wanted to come up and get Najee Harris, I probably would have tried to do that because they might have given you, the 104 and Mark Andrews or something for it. Then you solve your tight end problem, and you still have a point where you could potentially even pick Pitts there.
Yep, I definitely agree. Talked to Danny about it. Oh yeah, I'm not sure if you watched Nick's stream, but he was outlining him and Sexy Pat's deal. Sexy Pat's was giving me that.
Oh, I did watch Nick's stream. Yeah, I really like that deal for Sexy Pat's. The reason I like it is because I believe in Sam Darnold. If you believe in Sam Darnold, you like that deal for him for sure. Because I will take Akers straight up over Chubb. long term in Dynasty, even though I think it's going to be close.
They're very close. Yeah, same tier.
It's very close. They're both really good, but I will take Akers slightly. I am not the biggest Deontay Johnson believer, so I know Nick really likes Deontay Johnson, and that's why he probably made the trade. The Sam Darnold is where it hinges. If Sam Darnold turns into a startable quarterback for the next 6-7 years for the Panthers, even for the next 3 years, if he's like a serviceable QB, like back end QB1, high end QB2 or something like that, I think you won that trade, because I think there's a chance that Sam Darnold actually hits his ceiling, and his ceiling is Ryan Tannehill level.
Especially for sure. And then we're just talking at face value right now. Also, when you take into the fact that Jared is actually a contender in that league, getting a guy like Chubb, who's probably going to be better year one than Akers, and Mike Davis in particular, who's going to be undervalued by a guy who's a rebuilder, but as a contender, you can get a locked and loaded RB2, RB3 type at minimum flex. I really like this deal for you, and I think this better suits you to go for the championship specifically because
I like it for both sides, though. Honestly,
no, definitely. This is the definition of a fair trade. It's a win-win.
Yeah.
Sort of high on these rookies, and I think they were picked at value spots, at least just for me. Yeah, I mean, looking through it.
I think you were a bit early on Waddle, but outside of that, I think you were probably value-wise on pace. I think Fields was a little early too, but Chase at 5'12", I don't hate that value whatsoever. Pitts at 6'1", I think is fine as well. And Smith at 8'1". Those three rookie picks, especially to me, are perfectly fine picks. I think Devontae Smith is going to be a guy that is going to rise so much in drafts come preseason time. Like, he's going to baptize somebody in a preseason game. I can already feel it coming.
Definitely. So Alex asked, I'm picking 110 and 2-1. Who should I target there? One quarterback, one running back, two running backs, question mark. I would need to know more about your league scoring. I'm assuming it's a super flex if you're putting a quarterback into that situation.
Well, I think one quarterback, one running. Oh, okay. I see what he's asking.
I'm just going to assume it's a super flex if he's considering a quarterback at the 110. I would honestly just go play it by board. Play it by ear. Are you
sure though? Because at the 110, he might have like Lawrence there, and that's why he's asking if it's a one quarterback.
Well, I'm assuming it's a startup draft, right?
Oh, shit. Never mind. Yeah. I was thinking it was a rookie draft.
I'll just ask him then. Leave a little bit more detail.
Yeah, leave a little bit more detail. Yeah. Is it a super flex? Is it a
scoring
draft
roster
that you're talking about, or is it a rookie draft that you're talking about?
Yep. If there's one of the big three running backs left, take them. If not, unless you really like Sherman or Carter,
yes, he thinks it's a rookie draft as well. So I'm not sure. If it's a rookie draft or if it's a startup. He says Dynasty right here, but I'm not sure if he means Dynasty startup or if he means
rookie draft. Is it a super flex? Like, there's so many things that go into that. Terrace Marshall. Yeah, Terrace Marshall's a really good target too, especially after the top four receivers, in my opinion. He's very well in that conversation for that fifth.
Yeah.
Flag. Oh, no shot. We'll skip that. Nope, I have two flex, but my wide receivers are way too good to play as well. One quarterback, no tight end premium. I definitely fielded offers, but after I took Pitts, the 102 was pissed that I sniped him.
Oh, okay. So you can see if you could start all four of those running backs. I personally would have taken Najee Harris, but I understand why you made the Pitts pick, because as a whole, your roster probably looks better as a result. Because if you have, you said you have really good receivers. I don't know who they are, but if they're, Keenan Allen that you're flexing, then I understand the move, because it's hard to bench a guy like Keenan Allen, even with Najee Harris on the board. And I do think there's a chance that Najee Harris loses a lot of value after this year. I think there's a small chance that we see him come out and kind of look like Melvin Gordon did his rookie year. And that'll probably tank his value, similar to what happened to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Even though it's still going relatively high, it definitely hurt his value.
For sure. The 101, 102, and 104 in my PPR dynasty. I'm assuming it's a one quarterback, and if that's the case, you would absolutely smash it in that spot.
Yeah, if it's a one quarterback, the three guys that you have listed right there is exactly who I would pick.
The conversation I would have is Chase versus ETN, but aside from that, I think you're doing a really good job there. I agree on Darnold. I don't think we can judge his career so far so heavily, as he's only had Adam games. Yeah, this is the perfect opportunity to buy Darnold, because currently he's still going in Superflex startups right now, like the 7th, 8th round.
I took him in like the 8th round, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, at that point, the risk level of taking him is really not that bad, because if he does have a good year, guess what? You're going to be getting so much value in return for him if you want to flip him in a year. And this is the perfect spot for him to recoup that value. You're working with Joe Brady. You got a very good weapon score in Carolina. He doesn't have to be a great real life quarterback to produce fantasy numbers in that system. So overall, I'm absolutely hyped. I'm absolutely elated at the potential that Sam Darnold could have this year. And
we're seeing a situation too. They didn't what I expected them to do bringing in Sam Darnold was to draft a guy in the third round like Davis Mills or Kellen Mond, or go out and sign a veteran to compete with Sam Darnold. They got nobody. They passed on Justin Fields.
I was about to say that.
They have Sam Darnold for this year. They're ride or dying with Sam Darnold. And if it flops and they fall flat on their face, they'll probably end up with like Sam Howell or Spencer Rattler next year. But there's a good chance that Sam Darnold's the quarterback for at least the next 2 years. They picked up his 5th-year option too, I believe. So this should be a situation where Darnold is a starting quarterback for the next 2 years. And this is a guy that's 23, 24 years old. If he's able to actually turn it around, we could be talking about a guy that is like comeback player of the year this year. And we're looking at a Ryan Tannehill situation, except 6 years younger.
Yep. I definitely agree with that. I'm doing a 2-quarterback startup. So it's a 2-quarterback, not a super. Wait. Oh, so it is a super flex. Okay, so he's just saying, okay, fair enough. Wondering who should I target? I absolutely agree with you. Stay away from the wide receivers there. The value just simply isn't there, talking about opportunity cost. And in general, I would just play it by ear. Whoever's the best available quarterback is. If you're looking at a Lamar, a Dak, someone in that range, maybe you could take them. And since you're on that turn, you could be looking at guys typically like Cam Akers. If you can get a Lamar Jackson and a Cam Akers potentially to pair up on that turn, I think that'd be a very good value point for each of them.
Yeah, I personally am not a guy that targets quarterbacks early. Like I just don't,
I love
don't do it. I'm not a guy that does it. But at the end of your first round is usually where the value will be if you're going to target quarterbacks early outside of the first pick with Patrick Mahomes. So I think I don't hate it. If you wanted to pair Dak Prescott and a Cam Akers or Lamar Jackson and Antonio Gibson or something like that, that to me would be just fine. But I personally would opt for 2 running backs unless the value was just screaming at me, which I think Lamar would be the only case for me.
And Dak for me. Thanks for the answers. You guys rock. Like you said, I'm happy with Pitts. Yeah, no, definitely. Pitts is a very big coup for your team. So we'll get into this. Great. Thanks, boys. Anytime, Alex. So let's quickly look over these teams, then we can get another link going in here. We see Brandon.
Let us know in the comments if you guys want to do a dynasty startup mock, a rookie mock, super flex, 1 quarterback, tight end premium, whatever you guys want to do. We'll run one more of these after. I'm just looking over some of these teams right now. Yep. I'll go over my team real quick. This is a redraft mock, right? It's not a dynasty.
It's a redraft, yeah.
Yeah. So I have Zeke Elliott, David Montgomery, and Chris Carson as my top running backs. I'm a little thin at the position, I would say. Usually I opt for 2 running backs early, but to me, Devontae Adams, assuming Aaron Rodgers, assuming Aaron Rodgers is the starter, there's no absolute way that I would get him at 2.6 if Aaron Rodgers is still there. And if I did, it would be the absolute steal of the draft. I love my wide receiver core, though. Devontae Adams, Kenny Golladay, Chase Claypool, Will Fuller, and Michael Pittman. To me, that's a great mix of, floor, ceiling, upside, whatever you want to call it. And then Robert Tonyan as my tight end, I'm not, overly excited about. I wish I would have went a little bit earlier. I probably should have taken a tight end in the 7th round, but Goddard and Fant went right before me. So I was eyeing both of those guys in the 7th round and they went right before me. So I kind of just got unlucky there.
Yeah, definitely. And just talking about my team real quick. So I got Dalvin Cook at the 102. I talked about it. You want to take Cook, you want to take Barkley, Henry, Kamara, any of these 5 at 2, I'm fine with it. Just looking at Cook, I trust the situation in terms of overall volume, in terms of overall usage in his offense, the most out of those guys. And in terms of comparing him to Barkley, you don't really get the coming off the ACL factor, although he does have his own injury concerns. So either way, you can make a case for any of those guys at 2. I opted for Cook here. Talking about the receivers, I went with the modified 0 RB strategy. All these running backs were guys I would have targeted here if they fell. They were all gone. I wasn't looking at David Montgomery at the 211. I wasn't looking at Miles Sanders. I wasn't looking at Josh Jacobs. There was a clear value dip at the running back position, so I adjusted accordingly. I went with A.J. Brown and DeAndre Hopkins, who should figure to be top 5 wide receivers this year. So overall, if one of these tight ends fell, I could have talked about maybe potentially targeting one of them as well, but Brandon actually went with both. So overall, you're looking at that. Julio Jones at the 411 as well. Guys, this is still an absolute stud of a wide receiver. His pace last year when he was actually on the field, when he was actually healthy, was still top of the line, 1,400 yards, top 10 type wide receiver numbers. Getting him into the 4th round really supplements that risk that we have with Julio Jones given the injuries he faced last year. Mike Davis, perfect type of 0 RB, RB2. Getting him in the 5th round, I think is fine. You see the rest of the team. I really like how I built out my wide receivers as a whole. And I will say RBs again are obviously going to be a little thinner because of the strategy I took, but I like how my team turned out, especially able to get that Stafford and Higbee stack there too. I think it's pretty nice.
Right. It sounds like the people have spoken here. We got Dynasty, Superflex, tight end premium. Forrest, I personally I'm one of the
I'm maxed
people
out
that,
personally.
yeah, I'm maxed out on leagues, to be honest. I'd love to join, a league with everybody in our audience, but I know there's a lot of people out there that are in like 50 fantasy leagues. I like enjoying my Sundays and watching my players. And when you're in that many leagues, you're cursing yourself at the same time that you're celebrating when someone scores, right? Because like you got him in 2 leagues and he's playing against him in 2 leagues and it just sucks. So I like to max myself out at about like 3 to 5 leagues. And I'm only currently in like 3 dynasty leagues, and I'm only going to be in probably 2 redraft leagues next year, or 3 redraft leagues.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And in general, like not agreed, but like I'm in the same boat. I mean, I always say I definitely agree. But join the Discord. I'm sure there's plenty of avid fantasy football players in that Discord that are wanting to join another
free Discord, by the way. You don't have to pay for it.
Yeah, it should be in the link of this or description of this live stream. So join that and drop the link.
Yeah, so it sounds like Dynasty Superflex tight end premium sounds like it's winning. Down. So we'll get that queued up and we'll drop the link in the chat and drop the link in the Discord as well.
Yeah, I'll just set that up. You guys can see what's happening.
True. Yeah. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of cool, leagues that are out there with a lot of people in the industry. I'm just basically hoping just to get into the Scott Fish Bowl so I can get my taste of the industry that way. And I don't have to join other leagues in that way. But yeah, it's definitely cool, like networking with some of the guys that are on the fantasy grind all the time.
It definitely. So let me just see. This should be all set up now. All right, perfect. Where do we leave off on the comments?
No, we're caught up here. So yeah, if you guys have any other questions, more redraft stuff, we're going to be getting into our redraft ranking starting next week. So if you guys I know a lot of people commented once we got into redraft content, like, thank God I don't play Dynasty, but yeah, we're going to start to get into a lot more redraft content coming up because we're almost in June, man. And pretty soon we're going to be into training camp, like before we know it.
For real. So I just sent you the link privately, Corey. You can get into that, and then I can put the link into the.
Where did we miss? Did we miss a comment?
I didn't even notice it.
I see. Jared said we skipped his also, and I didn't see it. So maybe we're missing some of these.
What I'm thinking is maybe they got flagged by YouTube because sometimes it says like, do you want this comment to go on stream? And since we're looking at it from StreamYard, it doesn't show us specifically. So maybe that's what happened.
Yeah. So whatever your comment was, just repeat it.
Comment it again, and I'll take a look. Here, let me actually send this link into the Discord and then into the what's it called, stream. All right, I'm going to send it there, so they'll have first opportunity, and then I'll send it in here as well. So make sure you get in because these are going to fill up within like 2 seconds.
Yep. Here, drop it in the.
Yep, I just did.
Oh, okay.
These are filling up. Filling up.
Yeah, it wasn't very long ago that we couldn't fill mock drafts. Feel pretty good about that. Zach says, thoughts on Zeke once playoffs come with the Dallas O-line's traditional health issues? I mean, that's a risk, I guess. You got to take that into account that their O-line's starting to age a little bit, and maybe they do experience a bit more health issues, but even if Zeke didn't have his O-line last year, which he didn't, because he didn't have Collins, or did he not have Smith and Collins to start the season?
He didn't have Collins throughout the season. He had Smith for the first couple games, and then he got hurt.
Right. Like, even if he's missing a guy or two, like if Smith goes down and Collins and Martin are still there, I still think he's going to be fine. As long, like, the key is if Prescott stays healthy. That's really all you need with Zeke Elliott, because even if like 2 of the 3 like studs on their O-line get hurt, he'll still probably be a top 12 running back. Yep,
definitely agree. So yeah, we see Jared gets that Patrick Mahomes advantage. You got to be quicker than that, Fleck. Come on.
Fruitcake settings, jeez. Miles Garrett, Jamal Adams. Why would people love football not involve defense? I don't know. Scott Fishbowl is like Jimi Hendrix playing fantasy on acid. Yeah. The Scott Fishbowl is like, I just find it cool because there's like different settings all the time. And I don't really play in any leagues that are like janky settings. Plus, it's a good opportunity for us as guys trying to make it in the industry to connect with some people that are bigger, with bigger audiences and bigger networks than us.
Definitely.
The only thing Giants and Cowboys fans can agree on is F the Eagles. Yeah, I mean, I'm a Bucks fan, and I can agree on F the Eagles because when I was a kid, we really had a big time rivalry with them as a Buccaneers fan. So I don't really like the Eagles either. I just don't like the Cowboys because they're self-righteous fan base.
So down.
So a lot of QBs went off the board.
Man.
This is exactly why I don't pick quarterbacks in the first round of Dynasty startups because, like, the same concept where we talk about, the difference between the QB2 and the QB12 is the same as the difference between the RB1 and the RB28 or whatever like that. Like, the difference between high-end quarterbacks and middle-tier quarterbacks is still the same, even in a super flex. So, yes, you're getting an advantage with some of these higher-end guys, but they need to become Patrick Mahomes for it to be a true advantage. So I will still take the running backs in that situation and take the more middle tier of fantasy quarterbacks because I think they're a lot less of a difference between Justin Herbert and Ryan Tannehill than people think.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna go young here. Yeah, I was hoping Kamara or Taylor fell, but I'll take that Akers Gibson stack on the turn there. Nice little sophomore pair up.
Forrest said, there's a bunch of different settings in there. Black Raven, I've never seen that name in the chat, so welcome. Fresh 2 QB IDP, half PPR 10-man dynasty. I was picked 10 and grabbed Kyler Murray and Josh Allen. Did I mess up? No, I think at that point in a 2 QB league, Kyler Murray and Josh Allen being on the board at the 110 is great value.
Yeah, you smashed that right there.
Yeah, I say I don't like taking quarterbacks early because Kyler Murray and Josh Allen are top 4 picks. Like they go that high. Like if I was at the back of the first round and those guys were on the board, I would pick them then. But I just don't like being faced with a guy like Justin Herbert at the back of the first round rather than, those two guys because they're bona fide studs.
They're very interesting settings, but they're fun. But yeah, no, that was funny. I was gonna mess around. Was gonna do the Jones draft.
I'm on the board right now with the 204, and I'm caught between taking Derrick Henry or Tyreek Hill right now. I'm gonna take Derrick Henry because I got Saquon and Derrick Henry on one team, and that is frightening for anybody. If this was an actual league, like how are you gonna stop me? I have 2 of the biggest bell cows in the game.
Yeah, definitely. You missed Payne. We'll be running these every Sunday, so you'll have your opportunities. You guys, I'll help you make it in this. You gotta be. Definitely. We have about 5 to 7 shows a week, so I think we got the content.
Oh yeah. At least 2 shows a week ain't a problem. We got our the week. Me and Danny have planned out our content schedule for the entire summer. Just full disclosure. Yeah. So if you guys want to see something, make sure you let us know because we do have it planned out, and we'll fit things in that you guys want to see. But we legitimately have 3 videos a day for the last 2 weeks of August and early September. So you guys are going to get absolutely berated with content when it really matters.
Yep, definitely. You guys deserve a much bigger audience. I don't know why literally every single person might appreciate that a lot.
I love the fantasy footballers.
They are not a dynasty channel.
They are not a dynasty show. They're a redraft show. They do a great job with what they're doing. I think they should stick to redraft because I've heard their dynasty advice, and it's very obvious that they don't really play dynasty football. So it's, but they are literally the gold standard. So I'm not going to talk much shit about them because they're exactly what I want to be with my career, and they're doing it better than anybody else.
Oh, absolutely, and all due respect to them because they are the pinnacle of the fantasy industry. They are what every single fantasy YouTuber, fantasy content creator wants to be. But what I'm hearing, what was it? It was someone in a first for Julio Jones, or is it
they said I think it was Devontae Smith and a first for Julio Jones. They said they would smash accept immediately, and I was like, "Oof, that is."
Yeah, that's
they play very win now dynasty, which makes sense. They're redraft guys, and I play the same way, just not to that extent.
Yeah, definitely. We're starting to see the tight ends off the board. That is very good value on those 2 tight ends in the tight end premium, by the way, boys. Guys, hello. It's not an advantage if everybody gets to see.
Yeah, that is one thing with being as big as they are, is that everybody knows who they are, everybody knows who they like, and everybody, listens to their podcast. Like everybody in my fantasy league that I won this past year knows who the fantasy footballers are, and they listen to their podcast. So when I used to listen to them a couple of years ago, it was an advantage. It's not so much of an advantage now. So
yeah, I definitely agree. Drafting tonight, Dynasty Superflex 10-man league got the is Taylor, if he's there, absolutely all of those guys are worth the picks in my opinion.
This to me is an absolute value spot. For me to get DK Metcalf at the 3-9 is absolutely insane. So again, I think that's a big time tier break, what I just did at wide receiver. I love DeAndre Hopkins. I love CeeDee Lamb and Jamar Chase and some of these guys, but I actually have CeeDee Lamb and Jamar Chase like way lower than this in my rankings. But DeAndre Hopkins and Calvin Ridley would probably be my next two rated guys. And Metcalf, to me, because of his age, because of his freakish ability, to me is a huge tier break at the wide receiver position.
I was hoping he fell to me, man. That hurts. Yeah,
sorry. Matt says drafting tonight, Dynasty Superflex 10-man league at pick 110 and 201. If Taylor is Taylor, if he's there, and one of Akers, Chubb, Kamara, and Gibson worth those back-to-back picks, you can't go wrong with any two of those 5 running backs that you just mentioned. In my opinion, Taylor, Akers, Chubb, Kamara, and Gibson. If you end up with 2 of those guys, you're laughing, in my opinion.
I'm debating. Oh, wait. You know what? Let's fucking spice it up. I got a young team. It's going to sound crazy, but we're doing it.
So this is one thing that me and Danny need to get better at, because we tend to have the same process, a similar process on a lot of things, but we need to disagree more. I know that it's something I'm aware of when we do like ranking shows. I'm like, dude, why are we so close on some of this stuff? We need to disagree more. But the problem is that me and Danny have the same resources to use. Like we have the same subscriptions to the same sites and stuff like that. So it's pretty hard for us to disagree on things. And the only real thing that I can think of off the top of my head is like our dynasty strategy, like how we disagree on that, where like I have Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb as like wide receiver 17 and 18 in my rankings, and you have them at like 9
11
and
10. 12. Yeah. Or 10 and 11 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So like it's really hard to disagree with him just because we have like a similar strategy. But I know what you mean. Like a lot of people, when I do disagree, I say it at least. A lot of people don't do that. They'll hear a take that I've heard them, dispute in the past, and they just don't say anything. I'm not all about that. And I'm going to take Travis Etienne here, because I think that's
a good pick.
Pretty good value on him. I have him ranked actually ahead of Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So he's a guy that between those two guys would be appropriate 4th round value. And I think it's a bit of a tier break in terms of my dynasty rankings. Javonte Williams is my next rated dynasty running back after Etienne.
Agreed. And I was very upset at first when Helaire didn't fall to me, but then I realized this is a tight end premium, and I was able to get Kyle Pitts to pair with this young team.
Oh, right. Yeah, this is tight end premium. I kind of forgot about that. I'm not going to
lie. Rest of the league went. Yeah, you smashed it on that turn. Let's catch up on some comments. Matt, coming from someone who has Chubb and Akers, Saquon, definitely go JT and Chubb, and if one of those guys is gone, swap them with it. Yeah, you can't go wrong in that situation. It's absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know if I have this currently in my dynasty rankings, but the more and more I think about it, the more I think I would take Akers over Chubb straight up in dynasty. And it's nothing against Nick Chubb, but I can legitimately make the case that Cam Akers will be better this year in redraft than Nick Chubb. And if I can make that case, I'm getting a 4-year, maybe 5-year actually. I think Cam Akers 21, 22 years old.
Yeah,
like,
and Chubb's 25.
Running back in the NFL.
Yeah, definitely. Fair enough. Bam. Thank you. I missed who were. I think he said that about the ballers.
Oh yeah,
Just a question. I kind of like, dude. If it's a one quarterback,
I love Lamar Jackson. If Lamar Jackson's on the board anywhere past pick 45, so like midway through the 4th round, I think he becomes a great pick at that point, because people are seriously forgetting how much of an advantage Lamar Jackson is at the quarterback position.
I absolutely agree. That's kind of funny because we're just talking about how we always agree, but for sure, show respect. They're a great show, but it's funny to me that everyone ends up watching them thinking that they're getting an edge. But yeah, that's actually very true. People, what they don't understand is they watch content thinking that they're going to get an edge, but if everybody in your league is watching the same content, then what edge are you really getting? So the fact that you guys are able to stumble upon us when we're really a smaller channel at this point, hopefully we're giving you that edge that you can't really get from other spots
just
right now.
a sneak peek. I already talked about the fact that we've already planned out our content. I'm going to be running a series in July where I'm going to directly dispute takes I've heard on other podcasts. I'm not going to, name names or say, oh, this person's an idiot for this take. But if I hear narratives, and it's going to be more narrative based, like, for example, last year, we heard that Austin Eckler wasn't going to catch a lot of passes because Tyrod Taylor's the quarterback and he doesn't throw to his running backs, when that was just objectively false because he does throw to his running backs. And not only that, but I also made the claim that Tyrod Taylor isn't starting the whole year, which very much was the case because he didn't start after week 1. And I'm going to go through, because I listen to other podcasts. I'm sure you guys listen to some of the podcasts I listen to. And if I hear something that I think is a narrative, I want to go and investigate, see if it's actually correct or not.
Sorry, I'm just laughing at Murdoch's comment in the thing. Ryan loves his happy endings. Okay, let's get back to the comments. But I agree. To be honest, y'all by far have been more help with Dynasty and Fantasy. I've only been watching for like a week. So yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, we just try to give that quality content, as I would always say.
I knew he was going to say it.
If they say someone's a sleeper or buy low, then that guy instantly becomes. Yeah, I mean, if they get mentioned by a big channel, that ADP is going to rise by 2 rounds. So
yeah, that's like a sign that you've made it, right? When your takes are directly impacting ADP of like major fantasy sites, like that's how you know you've made it in their case. How the hell is Mike Evans on the board?
Wow, that's good value.
5'9". That is insane to me. Mike Evans is just consistently most disrespected player in fantasy.
Definitely agree. Wait, these guys from
that's the footballers. They're from Arizona.
Yeah.
Absolutely considered Metcalf there. Yeah, if you guys haven't noticed, anytime I pick somebody, or I snipe Danny or something, he'll just be like, to be honest, I did consider him with my last pick. So that's just an inside joke that Flet's poking at.
Ooh, I can't pass on this.
Absolutely considered Burrow.
I can't pass on that. Wow.
DJ Moore and T. Higgins. Yep, definitely like that.
Loaded.
Leonardo says, I have Burrow, Akers, and Gibson in so many teams. Love that start. Yeah, Akers and Gibson, that is a great. Like, I'm jealous of that first 2 picks that you got there, because you could legitimately have 2 of the top 5 dynasty running backs this time next year. On your team.
It'll be a lot of fun.
And you said this is tight end premium, right? I'm gonna say it over and over again. Like, Mark Andrews is one of the most disrespected dynasty assets, redraft assets. Again, like, maybe I just love the Baltimore Ravens offense because I think him and Lamar are just so disrespected. It's insane to me. The narrative that I'm sure I'm going to be getting into later in the offseason is that they don't throw the ball, and it's going to be inconsistent. And anybody that gets traded to the Ravens or drafted to the Ravens, it's a fantasy death sentence. It's like, this is an offense that scored the 7th most points in the league last year, scored the most points in the league 2 years ago. And I'd imagine they're going to probably fall somewhere in between that this year, because they had an extremely hard schedule to start the season this past year. And I think their schedule is supposed to ease up, and like, the Steelers have gotten worse on defense. The Browns are they're a good team and they're going to score a lot on offense. So that should keep them in games. I just think the Ravens are so undervalued.
Yep.
Like, all around. Bateman, Andrews, and Lamar.
0 wide. Yeah. And yeah, I read through this real quick. I'm not really on that train of thought. I'm going to answer as many questions as possible. And if people feel the desire or wish to give a super chat, then I'm going to be grateful for it. But just because you're given a super chat doesn't mean you should get special privileges over every single other person in the chat. Yeah, maybe if it's in terms of reading your question in an order, obviously we're going to prioritize the super chats. But we're not just going to discriminate against every single person because one other person will super chat. So I understand from a profit only standpoint his idea there, but I don't agree with it.
He's funny as hell.
Yeah.
He's a Washington football team guy. He used to do he does some total NFL content, but it's mostly like Washington football team stuff that he does. But he's a cool guy. I know what you mean though. He does do that with super chats. And me and again, another peek behind the glass here. Me and Danny have talked about how we're going to coordinate our Sunday morning live streams, because to be honest, our channel has grown so much that it is going to be challenging for us to get to everybody's questions Sunday morning, because even last year, towards the end of the year, it was challenging for us, but we're going to, do our best. We don't want to be at a point where we're like, Claypool, Sanders, like just telling people who to start and sit. We want to be able to give analysis on it, but we're definitely not going to discriminate anybody who doesn't super chat us.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we're going to be opening up a Patreon soon, so we'll not only have the Sunday live streams, but again, a little sneak peek into that. But a certain Patreon tier is going to get you access to a private Saturday live stream as well. So if you guys are interested in more content, more personal touch with us, then we'll have more information on that throughout the off season.
Right, and we'll have some really cool benefits for Patreon. It's not going to be the cookie cutter stuff that you see other fantasy stuff do.
Yep. Last night I did that's crazy.
FPC is a legitimate like thing too. Like those people know what they're doing. So Pitts is high on the experts' minds for sure.
Yep. I made like 5 trades after our Superflex tight end premium dynasty. Go for it, sir. I kind of stumbled mid.
Yeah. Go ahead. We'll give you as many thoughts as we can. Sorry, I'm like brain's like losing it right now. I'm looking at the board right now, seeing what I got. I got a pretty balanced team in terms of my positions, but I just realized that I have literally 0 quarterbacks on my roster right now. And thank God Baker Mayfield is on the board for me, because another guy that I think is one of the more disrespected assets in Dynasty. How many times can we say that a quarterback in Cleveland has made it to their second contract? Seriously, like how many times have we said this? Like never. Cleveland, like Baker Mayfield's getting a second contract if he plays anything like he did this year. And maybe it's not Patrick Mahomes' contract or even Dak Prescott's or Deshaun Watson's, but I have to imagine he's going to get a $35 million contract, which is, a touch below those guys. And who knows, man? Baker Mayfield could legitimately, with Odell Beckham now healthy, second year in that offense, he could legitimately vault himself into the top 8 quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. He was going to be my target, and then I realized you didn't have a quarterback, so I figured he wasn't going to fall back.
Full disclosure, he was my QB1 in that draft. He was like my favorite QB by far. I thought he was the best one, and I thought he was super, disrespected last year. I know he had a bad season, but he was like written off like he's a bust, he's a bum, he's kind of Carson Wentzian right now, where Carson Wentz is at. So I think he's a guy that's very undervalued, and he's another reason why I like waiting on quarterback in dynasty startups, because I can get him as my QB1, QB2 in most cases in the 6th, 7th round.
Yeah, definitely agree. And talking about that, Sam Darnold with the 7-12, we were just talking about him earlier. I think that's appropriate value. And then I'm looking at it. I'm really contemplating between a Cooper Kupp or, if I'm playing the ADP game, I could wait on like a Bateman or Elijah Moore. So I'll go Kupp. Fuck it. 8th round, I think that's pretty good value on him.
Yep.
He stole that.
And you sniped the crap out of me, Flat. I remember.
I agree. DJ Moore, and where did I get him? The 5-12 is easy. Like I didn't have any hesitation when making that pick.
Oh, trust me, I love the idea too, which is why I was going to do it last year, but and this is something that you guys can get involved with too. And basically what I'm going to be doing, it's not necessarily going to be me shitting on everybody else's takes. What it's going to be is if I hear a narrative, if I hear something repeated over and over again, I'm going to actually investigate it and see if it's warranted or not. Because the narrative could be true. They could be like, peddling a narrative that is correct. Like, for example, J.K. Dobbins' narrative is probably going to be that he's not going to receive 250 carries or 280 carries, which is probably correct. He probably won't receive that kind of rushing volume on the ground. But what my job is like a fantasy analyst is to go through and see if some of these narratives that are being peddled on the bigger podcasts with the huge followings, if they're actually correct or not. And that way we can, sort through some of the bullshit that goes, along out there. And that's how you really can get an edge, right? Because another guy that was a big narrative guy was Stephon Diggs last year. And if you were able to sniff that one out, then you could have won a league, because that guy was a 6th round pick and he ended up being a top 3 receiver.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. And I also noticed that you snagged Tom Brady on the turn here. And yeah, that's the perfect quarterback situation right now, especially given the win now outlook of your team. You pair Mayfield and Brady. I really like what you did there.
Yeah, I got Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley on my team. So you got to figure I'm trying to win right away. Those two guys are in the prime of their careers. Derrick Henry even might be a little past his prime if you want to make that argument. So I think with the next two to 3 years with what I have with those running backs, I should be in prime position. And I think Tom Brady is going to be the Bucs quarterback for at least the next 2 years, if not even maybe longer than that.
Yeah, I definitely agree again. But sorry, I clicked at the same time.
Yeah, we're just doing it constantly now.
Go for it.
All right. So any thoughts on if I'd be set for the next few years to compete with CMC and JT with Miles Sanders at flex? Yeah, with those 3 running backs, like you're in a great situation. Like Miles Sanders,
it's
I don't
a 6-team
hate
league
Miles
as well.
Sanders. Sorry,
6-team league. 6-team league.
A 6-team league? Oh, did he say? Okay, all right, yeah. So it's stacked on nearly every team. Yeah, like those 2 running backs are both 2 of the top, 6, top 5 running backs in Dynasty. Miles Sanders is a guy that we're, both lower on. I'd have to know what the rest of your team is, but Miles Sanders as your flex is still a fine situation to be in because he's still a top 15 Dynasty running back, top 20 Dynasty running back at worst.
Yep. Hey, Leo's loving my team. There it is. Got the start there, and you got the 2 receivers. Yeah, I'm pretty hyped about it. So you got good taste if that's what you enjoy. 16 league. What's up, James? Nice seeing you in the chat. Not over everyone in the chat. Not every. Oh, okay. So he's basically does multiple live streams, and then once a week he'll basically have like a okay. That makes more sense than could look into something. That would basically actually be the Patreon live streams if we did.
Yeah,
something like
that's
that,
basically what we would be doing is with that. It's just the more we grow, the harder it's going to be for us to get to everybody's questions, and that's kind of that outlet that we can provide to do that.
Yep. I got Najee, Dobbins, Thielen, Harris. They got Mixon, Depot, pairing with JJ. Thoughts? 3 different trade. So he got Najee. Oh, I love your side there. Yes, losing 2 firsts is kind of tough, but you're getting 2 locked and loaded top 14 at minimum Dynasty running backs. Thielen, who's a really good win now receiver, and Damien Harris, who we both believe is the most slept on running back in the entirety of fantasy football right now. So overall, though you give Mixon and Debo with the 2 firsts, I'm fine with making that deal any day of the week.
Yep. And Forrest, if you're willing to we're going to be doing our redraft guide it's coming out July 15th. So if any of you guys want to contribute to it, we have a business email. I believe it's in the description of all of our YouTube videos. So if you ever want to send us a writing sample or something like that, we're more than happy to take contributions to our redraft guide. Unfortunately, we don't really make a lot of money off of it, so we can't really provide you guys with compensation for it. But if you're just looking, this is a hobby for you, or you're trying to boost a portfolio, maybe you want to try and get into the industry as well, we're more than happy to have you guys contribute if you want to.
Absolutely. JD, I was about to say you should compete now, though. I try to. Yeah, that's fair.
Exactly what I wanted to happen with my third quarterback.
I needed Mac Jones to fall. No.
Yep. Perfect situation for me. See, this is why I wait at quarterback. I got Baker Mayfield, Tom Brady for the next 2 years, and I have Mac Jones waiting in the wing for. I mean, I don't even have to use him in his rookie season. I have Tom Brady and Baker Mayfield. So to me, that's the perfect situation. I have 3 startable quarterbacks for the next 2 years, and I can worry about Tom Brady retiring like a year from now in the rookie draft or 2 years from now in the rookie draft.
Yep. Something like that. I had a few too many drinks last night. Did an ESPN redraft 8th pick. Wait, what?
Gibson in the 4th. What the heck?
Let me just snag the boy Damien Harris now before y'all vultures take him from me. And then I probably should have thought about my second pick because I was actually just assuming Elijah Moore would fall. Quarterback's not really worth it at this point. Wide receiver, tight end, nothing. So I will take a wide receiver here. And man, I'm caught between Marshall and Lockett, but given the young youth side of my team, I'm actually just going to take Terrace Marshall here.
It's not a bad pick there. So
shabby.
I don't have prior experience in that small of a league, but I feel like you should probably be significantly more stacked than that, especially at running back to compete now. Yeah, I honestly, the smallest league I've ever played in is an 8-team league. And even in that league, your teams are just absolutely loaded. I do think, depending on the rest of your team, the wide receivers and tight ends and quarterbacks on your team, those are adequate running backs to compete in that league. But if that's the only bright spot on your team, then yeah, Bong Dong Silver.
What a great name.
Is probably right. You probably can't compete if those are the best part of your team. But if you have good positions everywhere else, you should be fine.
Yep, I agree. And good making video. What are you referring to there? Sorry, I'm a little confused.
Yeah, we make videos all the time.
Yeah.
If that's what you're asking.
we make constant videos. Yeah. Every team is stacked. Quarterbacks are wavy. Yep. I got Hunt as well, and I've got Mike Evans. Yeah, that's a very fun team.
I don't want Lockett at this pick because I have Metcalf. I'm Again, another guy that I think is pretty slept on. I'm going to go with Will Fuller. I think he legitimately could come out this year and have a solid season, get himself a big payday in free agency, or he sticks around Miami, whatever the case is. And he played like a number one receiver last year. Like Will Fuller was legitimately a top 10 wide receiver when he was on the field.
Yep. No, he was really good. But yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to catch up on some of these comments. Irvin Gesicki at tight ends in the 6-team league.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like with Irvin Gesicki as your tight ends, like you'd probably, I don't know who your wide receivers and who your quarterback is, but I'd imagine the other teams probably, especially in a 6-team league, you need a good tight end, I would say, and you need a good quarterback because everybody's going to have, good running backs and wide receivers. So if you can get an advantage like having a Kelsey or having a Mahomes, then you really separate yourself. But if Irvin Gesicki are your tight ends, it's going to be pretty tough to compete unless you have like Devontae Adams, AJ Brown, and Stephon Diggs as your receivers or something.
Yeah, for sure. Do we even believe? Yeah, we believe in Darnold. He's a talented player, lands in the best spot of his career. It's not out of the question here that he could be viewed as a top 15 at minimum quarterback option in Dynasty by this time next year if he has a good bounce back type of year.
I don't know if he meant who is Sam Darnold, like Jeopardy or whatever the TV show is, like who is Sam Darnold or whatever. Like I just totally, that's how I read it.
Oh,
I'm just gonna let you click the question. So we can do that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree. I think Kupp is going to be phenomenal this year. And in talking best ball, like the amount of shares I have of Cooper Kupp currently, that's one of my favorite stacks is the Ram stacks. Again, I mentioned that best ball strategy video. We're going to be going through a lot of it. We're going to be talking about best offenses to target with Ian Hartitz as well. This is going to be a fun slate. So if you guys aren't already subbed to the channel, make sure you pound that button, smash that subscribe button. I know I just mumbled a bunch of words, but
dude, I have never gotten Henry Ruggs in anything we've done with our listeners. Like, can you guys just let me get my guy, please? Like, I never get him anywhere. Like, it's brutal. I literally have 100% ownership of Henry Ruggs. Actually, no, I don't, because in our Dynasty Listener League, I didn't take him for that specific purpose, so I wouldn't have 100% ownership of him. But in my other 2 Dynasty leagues, I have him in both. And he is, I literally have Henry Ruggs hate police in my Twitter bio because people just hate on the guy for absolutely no reason. I saw Ray GQ did a Dynasty Trades, video yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And he talked about Henry Ruggs as if he was a throw-in. Throw-in. Like he was like Henry Ruggs is fine. I'm like,
he compared Henry Ruggs to like the other 2 in the deal, and they were like completely.
It was like Van Jefferson and I don't remember who the other guy was, but I'm like, dude, how can you not
straight fucking disrespectful?
At least recognize that Henry Ruggs is above that. Like, I don't know, dude. I understand people don't like the guy, but this is a top 12 pick we're talking about who is in a situation with no competition for targets outside of Darren Waller. Like, let's give the guy a little bit of credit here.
Yeah, definitely. And damn, I was hoping Goff
he was good last year. He just didn't get used correctly or thrown the ball. And that might not change. He might not get used correctly for the rest of his career. But on the off chance that it does change, you're talking about a guy that is at least talented and with high draft capital.
Wait.
Fitzpatrick was on the board?
You're saying no. I was saying you're saying some guy in that 6-man league has Dalvin, Saquon, Akers, Swift, Adams, and Tyreek, and Waller and Kittle. That's tear your team down right now and rebuild 2022, 2023, 2024 picks because that guy is going to win the league for at least the next 2-3 years. Honestly, like we're going to be objective with it. It's on the screen.
I can't. Oh, I'm blind. Yeah, that you're not winning the league with that team.
Thoughts on this trade I made in 12 best ball? I got Frank Gore. Wait, what? I mean, the way I look at it is the only people I care about in this thing is Sanders in the 411 and Carson in the 511. I'm assuming are the only relevant pieces. So
yeah. So he said in best ball, is the 411 like the 4th round pick or is it a rookie pick?
I'm assuming it's like a best ball dynasty, maybe.
Oh, okay. I see. Yeah. I didn't know that people played in those.
Yeah, regardless, I don't mind that if you wanted to trade up and get Carson.
I think Sanders is an upgrade over Carson, and you're getting a better pick out of it. And then like Danny said, the other guys are just throw-ins to me. So I would take Sanders in the 411 side because I think those are the 2 like between those 2 assets, you're definitely got a better running back in Sanders and a better pick. So you should be good there.
Yep. Do you guys agree that most of the tradition. Tebow in the last round of all of our drafts. Guys, great at the break. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree, and I know Corey's going to talk about them a little bit when we talk about offenses, but yeah, that'll be fun. Waller's the only one who gets. Yeah, Henry Ruggs is going to have a good year this year. He was very efficient, but nobody wants to respect it because he quote unquote had a down year. Yeah, people want to hype up Jalen Reagor when Henry Ruggs literally blew him out of the water in every single receiving metric. So, yeah, don't buy into all this fugazi on fucking Twitter, boys. What do you guys think of my team for a win now team? Yeah, we'll take a look at all the teams after this. Let's catch up on
Jesus,
some
we got a lot
first.
of questions on here. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty insane.
Yeah, I don't mind. Also, talking about redraft, I don't mind John Brown at all. Like, he's going at a range in the round 11, round 12 area where he's going to produce value at that point. John Brown, everywhere he goes, is going to give you consistent wide receiver 3 type output. And for where he's going, like, he's not a sexy name, but he's a really good depth piece to get on your redraft leagues in particular.
I think he's great in best ball too, because he's going like in like the last round of drafts pretty much.
Yep.
And he's a guy that is like a deep threat too. What I'm hoping happens with John Brown is that they use him as a deep threat and they use Ruggs correctly because they have John Brown. Like they use Ruggs closer to the line of scrimmage on shorter stuff because that I went in depth on the sleepers video with Ruggs talking about how his route tree was not go routes. Like that's not what he ran at Alabama. He ran slants and bubble screens and pretty much the stuff that Jalen Waddle runs. And I really think that Gruden is going to use him better this year. How much better? That's, remains to be seen. But I think Vic Tafur or whatever, the athletic reporter for the Raiders, has already written an article talking about how Ruggs was used poorly and should be used correctly going forward. And when you have high-end beat reporters making those observations, these are the people asking the questions to the coaches, right? And if they're asking, like, how can you get Ruggs more involved closer to the line of scrimmage, blah, 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 then sometimes coaches actually think about that. They're like, oh, wow, this beat reporter that I respect is talking about using Ruggs closer to the line of scrimmage. Maybe we should draw up more plays for him.
Yeah, no, definitely. Henry Ruggs, we've seen the talent on display last year. And when he wasn't injured, you mentioned it, was a very good usable piece, especially in real life perspective. But I do think he does have a very high fantasy football ceiling if they are able to incorporate him the way they were when he was on the field. So I definitely agree. It's wheels up, and people that are talking
for those of you that are like, but he's a deep threat. Like, how can he be fantasy relevant? The guy I compared Henry Ruggs to was Terry McLaurin. Like, that's who I saw when I watched him. So I don't see a guy that is limited as being a deep threat. I see a guy who's fast, but is also a good route runner and can improve in that area and become a guy like what Terry McLaurin has been able to become for the Washington football team.
Also appreciate that for us. Let's get into a couple more of these. And I see potential for guys. Yeah, that could definitely happen.
There's going to be other targets on the Raiders. It's not just going to be Darren Waller. It's up to us to figure out who, and my guess is Ruggs. Yeah,
Superflex wasn't a thing back in 2016. It really took over the wave recently, and now I cannot play in a Dynasty league unless it's Superflex.
Same.
So, I have to go. Wife and I are having lunch with parents. Thank guys. Always love the content. Appreciate you stopping by the stream. You enjoy that lunch.
Yep.
I have a lot of hope. Carson different. I mean, he's got potential. He's like the talent.
I've never been a big fan of Bryan Edwards' game. I saw a guy that reminded me a lot of N'Keal Harry, to be honest. Like, I didn't see a guy that was a natural separator. I didn't see a guy that was as physical as he needed to be for the type of player he is. Like, he's a contested catch guy, but he's not a dominant physical presence. So that kind of concerns me. That's like a red flag for me when I'm scouting wide receivers. And it's burned me in the past, but it's also, made me avoid people in the past. And I saw it with N'Keal Harry and I avoided him and it worked out. But I saw it with Cortland Sutton and I avoided him and it didn't work out. So I would say he's kind of a hit or miss guy. I know Bryan Edwards has the more typical, X receiver, number one receiver build, but I just think Henry Ruggs is way, way more talented than Bryan Edwards ever will be, in my opinion.
That's fair. Henry Superflex has been a thing long before. Yeah, but I understand what he means. Like, it's been a thing. It's just it wasn't really as popular for people until recently. In
Dynasty too, it might have even been behind the 8 ball, especially too.
Yeah, because we've had multiple content creators recently, YouTubers, like fantasy football experts that have been really transitioning their leagues since honestly, 2017, 2018 is when everybody started talking about the wave of Superflex. And basically everybody at the time was saying, well, it's not going to be long until Superflex really replaces one quarterback leagues. And we've seen it by 2021 now that Superflex is the main league of a lot of, or main roster settings of a lot of leagues nowadays.
Yeah.
Specifically in Dynasty as well.
Yeah. And the weird thing to me is that I never have played, well, I have played in Superflex redraft leagues, but it's always my preference to play in one quarterback redraft leagues, which is kind of
I'm
odd
the same
to me.
way.
It doesn't really make sense, but that's how I kind of make the distinction between Dynasty and redraft. To me, it's more fun to kind of separate them, because if I was playing in Superflex redraft leagues and Superflex Dynasty leagues, they'd kind of blend together a little bit more than they do. So I kind of like how they're different for me.
The thing I find I don't know where my other there. The thing that I find the weirdest about Superflex redraft leagues is, where do you place the value on the quarterbacks? Because the main allure, the main draw of Dynasty Superflex is that, first of all, it's a more scarce position. You can start basically every team starting 2 quarterbacks a week on the most part. 3 are being rostered. So typically speaking, at least 36 quarterbacks are being rostered, and only 32 starting quarterbacks are in the league. So that's the dynamic of the scarcity impact that,
and the age factors like big time,
yes,
where the ADP is too.
And I was about to say too, the reason why I also put the value in is because quarterback's the most position, or the position that has the most longevity out of the entire landscape of fantasy football, talking about tight end,
right,
quarterback, running back, and wide receiver. When you actually change that dynamic to a redraft, well, now where do you value the quarterbacks? Because half the equation was their longevity. But in redraft, you're only focused on 1 year. So where do you place the value on these guys? Where do you really say, okay, Patrick Mahomes, first quarterback off the board? I'm not taking him over any of those running backs in a 1 year type of sample. I'm not taking him over some of those wide receivers. So at the end of the day, where are you really putting him amongst that group?
And that's how you get to a point where I'm at, which is where I don't pick quarterbacks early in Dynasty. I especially wouldn't do it in a Superflex redraft either, unless a guy falls to me at a certain point, most likely Lamar Jackson, given the value that everybody's currently going at. So we have a lot of questions to catch up on, and then we'll probably head out of here once we do catch up on them. So we'll rip through a lot of these and head out of here. Thanks for joining us on. We did a redraft mock, we did a Superflex Dynasty mock, and we're answering a bunch of questions here. So if any of you have been around this whole time, we definitely appreciate that. And smash the like button if you haven't already done so. That helps us out too.
Definitely. I forgot about Harris. Yeah, I got a nice little value on him there. He's being slept on by the entire industry. It's not for long until everybody catches up, and he's going to be a 5th round redraft pick in particular. Not like it is now. I play FFC as one of my sites, and they didn't start. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it really took a wave about 2018 is when a lot of people started talking about it. So barely. Yeah, exactly. 15 targets last year, 2 really good ones versus the Saints, like week 7.
Yeah, see 15 targets on the whole year. Like I don't know. I'll bite the bullet if I'm wrong on Bryan Edwards, but I'm gonna fade him because I didn't like the tape coming out. I didn't like what I saw from him last year, and I just don't think he's gonna make that big of an impact in my opinion. So I'll choose Ruggs over Edwards any day of the week. I know there's definitely some merits to Edwards. He's got the size, he's got the X receiver capability. I just don't think he has that high of a ceiling personally.
Yep. If you're able to find the numbers, I bet only 5. Yeah, we could definitely look into something like that and see over the years how Dynasty or redraft or even fantasy football.
I feel like I saw a Twitter thread about it like a year ago. Like somebody talked about the growth of Superflex. I can't remember who did it, but some analytics person probably.
Yeah, they didn't use them at all, but yeah, definitely Raiders fan. Great. Honestly, like,
I wouldn't draft him. I would let him go undrafted. Personally.
The only way I consider him is if I'm in a best ball draft and I have at least 2 Steelers. So if I have a Najee Harris and a Chase Claypool, then I'd contemplate taking Big Ben in like the 13th round or so, 14th round, simply to produce that stack. But
to be honest, I'd rather have all 5 of the rookie quarterbacks. Yeah, maybe not. I don't know, maybe not all 5 of them, but like the rookie quarterbacks, I would just much rather have the Big Ben, and that's about the range that they're going in best ball drafts, especially. And with Big Ben, I just like he didn't show the weekly ceiling that we've seen from Big Ben in the past because he was just super inefficient. Yeah, he was throwing the ball a lot, but it was bad volume. It was like David Johnson getting a bunch of carries. It was that type of volume for Big Ben. And I also think, as I talked about on my AFC coaching changes video, they're going to more of a Sean McVay type of scheme. The offensive coordinator, Matt Canada, runs that type of scheme. And that is a system that takes pressure off the quarterbacks with the run game and with shorter passing and things of that nature. So I don't think Big Ben is going to be the same guy that drops back 675 times a year.
Yep. I want him and Carr for the spicy hot stack. We gotta make that a thing now.
Yeah.
Spicy hot stack. Murr had to snipe me though. Yeah. I misclicked it, but that's okay. Which Thomas? Where are you? Spicy hot. That's
Logan,
not
maybe,
bad.
or Michael?
That's not terrible in a tight end premium because he gets a lot of volume.
Yeah.
The only problem is how much of that volume translates next year, but it's worth taking the risk for him in the 11th round because if he does still have that role as that alpha tight end on that team, that's going to be a value because he had, I think, 110 targets or 100, it's something crazy in terms of his target share last year. So we'll see how his involvement is this year.
Okay, so to me, this proves my point, what you just said. Derek Carr is, you think he's like a middling level quarterback, and I would kind of agree with you to some extent.
The first
Ruggs, if Ruggs is used correctly, then he is the exact type of weapon that Derek Carr can support because he's a closer to the line of scrimmage separator. Brian Edwards is not a guy that's going to create consistent separation. He's a guy that's going to need more tight window throws that Derek Carr has shown propensity to not be able to deliver when it matters. So if Edwards hits his ceiling, you mentioned Robert Woods here. I don't think there's any chance that he becomes the route runner that Robert Woods is. I just don't see it. I don't think he has the twitchiness, the nuance. I just don't see it with him. I think he's going to always be more of a stiffer runner of like routes and a guy that's going to need contested catches. And that's not the type of quarterback that Derek Carr is.
Yep. Now, if they traded for Rodgers, however.
Right. And even if he had a guy like Big Ben or something throwing him the ball, or Jameis Winston or someone that's like more willing to take some risks, then you might be in a situation where he's a bit better. But again, he's a guy that I've never really believed in to begin with.
That's fair. I liked him coming out, but yeah, I would much rather Ruggs at face value. Yeah, see, something like this, this should be, in my opinion, maybe I just get infuriated too easily, but if something like that happens, the commissioner has to step in because that is literally a colluding act. You can't just drop 3 of the top 25 overall players in Dynasty. It can't happen. And I understand I am full support on roster flexibility, being able to manage your own team. But when it's at this point of mismanagement, the commissioner has to step in here because this is just ridiculous, in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah, like even Jared said, that made me angry when I saw that comment. I'm like, dude, like, if people are going to join Dynasty leagues, don't do shit like that. Like, whatever. Although athletically, it may have a little more juice.
I also disagree there. I don't think he has more juice than Woods.
Do you like Amari Cooper better than Mike Evans? Or that's one we can talk about.
They're so close. They're exactly the same type of player, and
except Cooper was more consistent this year than he's been in any year of his career.
That is true. He definitely was more consistent. Evans, however, was injured to start the season. So I think Evans will be better this year than he was last year. But I also think Cooper's going to be a stud as well. They are neck and neck. I love both guys for redraft perspective. They're locked and loaded top 3-4 round picks in redraft, and 2 guys that I feel absolutely comfortable with being my wide receiver 1 in fantasy.
Absolutely. If we're talking about a strict redraft league, I prefer the consistency that I think I would be getting with Cooper. If we're talking about best ball, I can understand the case for Mike Evans because he's got legitimate 35, 40-point week upside on any given week. Then again, we could also say that with Cooper, but they are in that same type of tier. So I would basically
on Brian Edwards real quick. He ran about the same time as Woods, but he didn't test his agility. He didn't test his agility drills. And that was my question with him. And Robert Woods had good agilities. So that's what I mean when I say, like, I don't see Edwards as like a twitchy guy. Like, I don't think he's very fluid as an athlete. I think he's more stiff.
Yep. I definitely agree there. Yeah. If Ruggs gets 110, 125 targets, if we could say now
Ruggs legitimately had like 40 targets last year. Like, if he gets 110, 125 targets, he's going to be a top 15 wide receiver. I was
going to say that too. Yeah. Like we talk about if we could say right now, like lock and loaded going into 2021, oh yeah, Ruggs going to have between 110 and 125 targets. He's going to be right after the A-Rob, Godwin, Cooper, Allen type range. Like if you're talking about the range here, I know this is a dynasty, so it's a little bit different, but this 5th, 6th round area, Ruggs is absolutely going to be in that area because, quite frankly, giving a guy with that efficiency, that amount of targets, is going to be something out of heaven. So.
And we're talking about a guy that was like legitimately top 3 in the NFL in yards per reception this past year, right? And I know he's a deep threat, so he's gonna, rank highly that way anyway. But he was efficient as hell, man. Like anytime you watch this guy run a route or get open and get the ball, he was making contested catches. Like it was just insane to me why they didn't throw him the ball more. Like I honestly can't explain it.
Yep, I agree. Love the Spicy Hot's just enjoying right now. He loves the Rugs talk. He sniped Rugs from me in the listener league as well. So
got a lot of Raiders fans in here.
Yeah, I know, right?
I apologize for 2002. My team did a number on you guys.
He has upset,
but I also apologize for nothing.
They're just covering right now. Also, I gotta quickly touch on this. I disagree with the fact that the Raiders don't have the best safeties in the game. It's not.
Who are their safeties right now?
Merrick and Abram.
Yeah, no, that's not close. Like
Abram sucks.
Yeah, your secondary might be one of the worst in the league, to be honest. Yeah. Like it's got a lot of youth, it's got a lot of upside, but until I see it with those guys, I'm not like I liked Merrick. I thought he was the best safety in the class, but he's still a rookie safety, and I don't even think he was as good as Winfield was as a prospect last year, or even some of the guys that went who went in the first round last year at safety.
None of them. They all went second round.
Oh, right. Like Gallup, I don't think he was as good a prospect as Gallup or any of those guys. I think this was a weak safety class, and Abram I never liked, to be honest. I didn't think he was that good at all. Arnett I liked. I think he's a good player at corner, and Mullins a solid guy as well. Like the Raiders defense has to step up. Like it was not good last year at all.
Yeah, and we're going to get killed. Like, oh my god,
Jesus.
Fringe MVP when he does have a guy and trust him. Yeah. Appreciate your call. Anytime fantasy football trainer. I actually rate that background right there. Might have to get a little gym pump and send it for your content. I'm going to be Ravens week 1. Still ain't making the playoffs. Watch. I think he can support multiple good pass catchers. Oh, okay, they're just talking to each other.
Yeah, like the offense wasn't the problem for Carr last year, and the O-line was so injured for them that I'm actually kind of surprised Carr played as well as he did.
Yep. So thoughts on AB trade value? Talking about Antonio Brown. Is this in terms of dynasty, in terms of redraft?
I honestly think he's almost worth just holding on to. I think he's going to be more valuable to your team than anything you can get for him, if that makes any sense, because
you're not going to get a second.
Getting anything more than a late second at best, right? For Antonio Brown.
I would say a third, man. People aren't going to overpay for him because they think of him as such a question mark.
And I think I would just rather have AB at that point.
I agree. Okay, they're talking again. We got Connor. Alan McLaurin at Swift at the 405. Talking about those guys at face value, I would want to know who your other keepers were, but in general, I would tend to lean the running back here, so I would prefer Swift personally.
Yeah, it's so close between Keenan Allen and Swift for me, but
me too.
If your other keepers were all running backs and you wanted to keep a receiver, I wouldn't hate keeping Keenan Allen, but I personally would go Swift as well.
Yep. Moving my league for running back, but I don't see any other guy in the league I'd rather have him. Yeah, that's the thing. Nobody's going to overpay for him because they're just going to say, well, why are you trying to move him? You understand that he has a bunch of question marks, yada, yada, yada. He's an older receiver. He's a wide receiver 3, and they're going to offer probably a 3rd round pick. And at that point,
would you rather have Antonio Brown for the next 2 to 3 years of his career that he plays in the NFL, or would you rather get, as much as I love Josh Palmer in the 3rd, I'd much rather just have Antonio Brown.
Easily. Seahawks trying to get Julio. Oh, that'd be interesting. Easily the best.
The Seahawks have been consistently trying to add receiver help for the past 3 years, and it's a really odd thing to me that they don't recognize that it's one of the stronger points of their team.
Yeah, I know.
Your O-line is terrible and your defense is bad. What is up with you guys in receivers? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, Forrest, you're all good, man. I said afterwards.
The Raiders. I have more optimism in the Raiders offense than a lot of people probably do, because I like Jacobs more than a lot of people do. I like Ruggs a lot more than people do. I think Derek Carr is a little bit underrated to some degree. A lot of people just think he's a terrible quarterback, but yeah.
Damien. Oh, I would much rather Damien Harris there. And a 10 team, especially if you need to run. Elijah Moore is very close actually, but I would still slightly prefer Harris, especially when you're considering running back to wide receiver. But if you're stocked up at running back, I'm fine with going Elijah Moore. It's just the fact is, how is Elijah Moore making it there? Oh, it's a 10-teamer, I guess. I don't know. regardless, face value, I think they're about
For
similar.
Damien, is this for Damien Harris that he's
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about?
I'm assuming.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would rather have Damien Harris than Elijah Moore in
yeah,
Dynasty.
it's close though. But yeah, at face value, give me the running back. Let's make a trade. These accounts have to be Tyler.
Oh, the car stuff, yeah.
Let's make a deal. I'll give you Coons flat.
Malcolm Coons.
Stud. CH or Darnold, DJ Moore in a second in a Dynasty Superflex league. I would need more information about your overall roster. So if you want to DM myself or Corey in the Discord or on Twitter, feel free to do that. And maybe we can get you on a Dynasty decisions as well. Because that's the type of trade that fully needs context in terms of roster construction. It's much improved, but no. Abram spent. Gus Bradley is literally.
That is so true, though. Like, Gus Bradley might not be the greatest defensive coordinator in the league, but he's definitely better than what they had last year on their defense. So that could definitely, coaching can make a big difference, especially when you have young players like you guys do on the back end that need coaching. And especially with, I mean, it seems like Arnett and Abram are kind of wild cards, like personality wise too. So if you have a good coach that'll rein those guys in, it could really work out for them. But until I see it with the Raiders, I'm just going to assume that they're going to have a bad defense.
Yep. Coons 101 and IDP draft. Yeah. Yep. Did you hear Mike Mayock called him the next Khalil Mack?
Oh no.
Why?
Did he go to Buffalo?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's brutal.
What is that?
Yeah, stop. Okay. So we're probably gonna head out of here. It's been about an hour and 45 minutes, and I have a tea time soon. We'll answer these last couple questions. Get your last minute questions in, and then we'll answer them. I agree about Abram needing to rein it in, but I think having Moore instead of Harris next to him is going to make a big. Yeah, it could make a big difference, but I don't think they're going to be the best safety duo in the league.
Wait, Forrest says. I mean, take a look behind me.
Yeah, Danny's a Cowboys fan. I'm a Bucks fan.
Yeah. He did.
Sorry, I'm a world champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. Sorry,
I'm a 5-time world champion.
Yeah, you weren't alive for any of them.
Yeah, no, don't worry. I'm about to be 6-time in 2021.
Okay, yeah. So Hugh says, I see DJ Moore at 5'12 and T at 6'1. Just traded DJ Moore for T plus a 2021 or 2022 second. Dub.
Yeah, people are going to sleep on T. Higgins. They're automatically going to say, oh, Jamar Chase is there. He's not going to do anything. Yada, yada. Don't listen to that garbage. The Bengals offense last year averaged almost 41 pass attempts per game when Joe Burrow was on the field. There is plenty for both of them to eat. And if we're talking about a redraft perspective specifically, I know in Dynasty, obviously Jamar Chase is going to be the more valuable player long-term because of that connection we saw from him a couple of years ago, especially with that LSU. But T. Higgins is going to have an 1,100, 1,200 yard year this year. I'm fully confident in saying that. You're muted.
I'm muted. LOL. I'm especially if Burrow can continue some of the momentum that he built last year as a passer, because as much as his ACL tear might impact his ability to run the ball, he should be at least what he was last year, and that was enough to support T. Higgins. Honestly, he was like a top 15 receiver last year.
Yep. Didn't call him Mac. Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm just making shit up. I was pretty gone that night. No kidding.
Yeah.
Thanks, boys. Great stream. Anytime, Leo. Appreciate having you in here as always. Later, man. Later, Bong. He just remembered the last time. Yeah.
Oh, God. You took him in the top 5.
Oh.
And you weren't the one who drafted him.
Hey, appreciate that, Forrest. Nice meeting you. And you too. Enjoy your weekend or enjoy the Sunday because the weekend's about to finish. But yeah.
All right. We're heading out of here, guys. Thanks for joining us. We had, 30, 40, 50 people concurrently.
Yeah, we had like 55 concurrently at one point.
Yeah, so I definitely appreciate that. If you guys haven't already done so, like the video. Go check out our recent videos. I know they're not going to be the biggest view getters in the world, but those coaching changes videos are very, very valuable. I cannot stress how valuable those videos can be to you guys. So if you haven't already checked them out, go ahead and do so because they are going to help you a lot get an edge on some of the coaching tendencies coming up this coming season.
Yep, absolutely agree. So with that being said, if you made it this far and you haven't already liked the video or live stream, I know I'm already in recording voice, make sure you hit that smash on that like button as always.
Yep. And we'll be coming at you guys Dynasty decisions and our first round of redraft rankings in the next 2 days. All right.
For sure. Peace
Peace
out,
out.
y'all.